to share with you this morning is that no matter what you've been through in the past, no matter what you're going through right now, first thing I want to tell you is you have to recognize that God is at work in your life. Oh yes, standing in the shadows of the story, God is at work. That's helpful to remember as you live the days of your life and struggle with the ethical decisions that are yours to make. God is standing in the shadows and God is at work. God is able to bestow favor on your life so that your desperation will often become the basis of your inspiration. Pharaoh's two legislative initiatives failed. But provoked by fear and anxiety about the impending possibility of adversity, he issued an executive order and declared open season on all the Hebrew boys under the age of 2 years old. In essence, he gave anybody and everybody permission to assassinate and extinguish boys of the Hebrew persuasion whenever and wherever they were seen. The circumstances didn't matter, just kill them. Tragically and perhaps hauntingly, there are modern parallels in the present with this story from the past. It appears to be a no-holds-barred frontal assault on the well-being of our boys and our girls. Who can deny that children are often in danger at home and at school? It doesn't matter whether they're numbered among the underclass, the lower class, the middle class, or even the upper class, whether they reside in the city, in the suburbs, and even in the rural community. It appears that it's open season on our children. The threat of violence is not just from those who are older against those who are younger, but often it's the young against the young. The young are armed with handguns and trained virtually and sometimes visually in violent techniques. These young minds have been desensitized to the value of human life and the horrendous tragedy of death. The media has to bear some responsibility here along with the parents. However, in an ultimate sense, everyone has to accept some of the blame for what's happening to the children of the world. Come on here, somebody. We can't blame the video games if we're the one buying. God help me preach. We can't blame the media and the videos that are on BET when we sit them in front of them and let them watch them. God, I ain't gonna get no help up in here today. Oh my God. Poison fruit only comes from poison roots. God help me preach in here today. We've all got to bear some responsibility for what's going on in the world. And so our young boys are armed with weapons of deadly force, desensitized by violence and indifference, fueled by anger and rage, intoxicated by drugs and alcohol, angered by dreadful circumstances. Many young people have succumbed to valueless moments and mindless despair. And in far too many instances, young men and women have had their dreams snatched away, and without dreams, one is hopelessly riveted in the present and tied to the moment and not making their way to their future. Their options have been tragically truncated to the military, McDonald's, peddling, pushing, pimping, or the penitentiary. Am I in the right house? Many have been criminalized in their own community, painted as deviant, dumb, dysfunctional, and dangerous. Pharaoh ordered, kill all the baby boys. A good reason isn't necessary. Any old reason will do. It doesn't matter whether he's just walking home from school or reaching into his pocket for his wallet. Kill all the baby boys. However, God has a way of taking care of his own. For a baby was born in the tent of Jochebed. Freedom was written across his plump and dimpled face. Joy flashed in his infant eyes. Strength and determination expressed themselves in his holy cry. his mama, not wanting to lose him in the violence of the streets, formed an old-fashioned basket and set him adrift on the waters of the Nile River. God guided that basket across the currents of the Nile to Pharaoh's own palace, where the daughter of Pharaoh was taking her daily beauty bath. When she opened the basket, she fell in love with the baby inside. She took him in her arms, her heart and home, and raised him as her own son. This strange and extraordinary child was saved from death and reared in wealth. Moses had a miraculous start. Moses' stellar start ensured that he was trained in the best schools. That's right. Fed the best food. He wore the best clothes. Frequented the best places associated with the elite of his day. He wore the finest jewelry and courted the most beautiful women. All of them were dimes. Can I get some help in here? Oh, my. Yet, despite all of these blessings, there was something burning in his heart. Just as God navigated that basket across the currents of the Nile River, God navigated Moses' footsteps in a manner that he discovered his true identity. All right. Do you really know who you are? Would you ask your neighbor, do you know who you are? Oh, bless his name. Oh, yeah. God guided his footsteps so he would know who he really was. And to his dismay, he discovered that while he was hanging out with Pharaoh, Pharaoh was hanging his kinfolk. Moses was living large and in charge, while his loved ones were crying, sighing, and dying in the brick pits of Egypt. That's right. Moses was, colloquially speaking, stomping with the big dogs, while his relatives were being mauled by an inhumane system designed to destroy them. Moses discovered his true identity, and when he observed an Egyptian mistreating a Hebrew, he found his own anger uncontainable, and he took matters in his own hand and had to flee Egypt with a murder warrant hanging over his head. Moses ended up leading sheep. Now imagine this scene, if you will. Come on. The same man that had eaten off golden plates was now eating off the ground. The same man who had worn the finest silk and satin garments was now ambling about in a dingy shepherd's robe. The same man who spoke and commanded armies to march was now shouting at sheep, trying to get them to get themselves together. Moses was all the way up, but now he was all the way down. All right. In other words, I just came by here to tell somebody who's going through a circumstance in your life that sometime God has to break you before he can make you. Would you look at somebody and tell them sometimes God has to break you before he can make you? See, God has to test you before he can bless you. God has to bring you down in order to get you to look up. God often shows up in strange and mysterious ways, for on the backside of a mountain in Midian, Moses saw a bush burning that would not burn up, and as he approached it, he heard a voice that was compelling as the bush was mysterious, saying, "Come to me, take your shoes off." You're standing on holy ground. Now, I want you to go to Pharaoh. Tell him to let my people go. Oh, bless his name. After some persuasion, Moses listened to the leading of the Lord, returned to Egypt, and through a series of 10 plagues, God so worked in Egypt and on Pharaoh that he was compelled to let people of Israel go free. In the midst of everything that Moses went through, God was at work in his life. I came by to tell somebody, I don't care what you're going through right now. It may not look like you have the favor of God. But I heard Paul say, Romans 8 and 28, for we know that all things work together for good to them that love God and are called according to his purpose. God can put some anxiety in the pot, some pain in the pot, some hard times in the pot, some broke times in the pot, and mix it all up and it come out good. Would you tell somebody it's all good? Y'all sit down, sit down. First thing I need you to know, God is at work in your life.